Great. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Policy Panchayat, a podcast where we speak to people who are doing great work in the development sector and in the public policy sector and bring their insights on careers and spaces in public policy and the larger sector. My name is Swati. I co founded PPI and I'm currently working at Dalberg in an impact consulting role. I have with me today Vatsal Nahata, who's doing some very interesting work in the development sector. He's navigated his career from SRCC in Delhi to Yale to the World Bank and now at IMF. And he's also been helping out hundreds of people make better career choices by sharing his insights on career principles and admissions to master's program, among a few. Welcome, Vatsal. And with that, I'll hand it over to you. And why don't you run us through your journey so far?
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Swati. Thank you for organizing this and thank you for reaching out to me. It's great being able to share my insights and journeys, like journey along the way, especially in the public policy and development sector. So, in terms of introduction, I would say I've had quite a varied uh, perspective just within the development sector itself because I broadly like categorize within the development sector there are like four or five different sort of players, right? The first is of course the government. The second is like more academic and research institutions like JPAL or IPA or like a lot of the growth a place like the Harvard Growth Lab or like these other think tanks within universities or just standalone think tanks. The third would be like more World Bank, IMF places, which are more to do with lending money or providing technical expertise and working closely with governments. The fourth would be places like Dalberg or ID Insight, Chemonics, Dasra, these sort of places where Satwa Consulting and Samagra and places like these where you're basically consulting in a more private sector sort of way, but you're very closely involved with the government and development sector partners. And the last would, of course, I think, be much more miscellaneous in the sense of like pure, like you're in the CSR wing of some corporate or like um, even like very good non-profits, and non-profits, of course, are not miscellaneous. So I'll take back my statement. So another category would be like non-profits, like hardcore non-profits that are doing amazing work on the ground and like directly interacting with beneficiaries and people. So in terms of my journey, so I did my undergrad from Shri College of Commerce. I'm originally from Calcutta. Did my schooling from there, and then I went to SRCC. And after SRCC, like by the end of my third year, I had like a job offer from Bain and Company. Um, I had admits into Yale, LSE, and Oxbridge and stuff for their econ programs. But I always wanted to do UPSC, so I literally like deferred my master's programs by 1 year, and I did UPSC for one entire year because I felt that impact on or like policy making is at its purest form, or you're closest to the beneficiary, and you have the government's money to like execute and implement, and that sort of experience would be best in the government. So I tried doing UPSC for an entire year. I cleared the prelims, but I couldn't clear sort of the mains exam, and I missed it by 5 marks. And then I was like, I'm not going to take another attempt at this. One attempt is fine because I don't want to waste my youth and my prime years into just giving attempts. I was like, if it happens in one shot, amazing. If it doesn't happen, then also amazing. Like life goes on. And I think another paradox about the development sector that I've realized more and more is out of these five, six places that I've mentioned, different players within the development sector, it's not that only the IAS or only the government or only World Bank, IMF, or like only one particular player is creating the most impact. I think impact is very subjective and it really depends on like who you're impacting at the end of the day and like in what capacity you personally want to work. So there has to be a good combination of both of those. So coming back to like, yeah, so like after UPSC, I studied at Yale. At Yale, I was a research assistant for the Yale the Economic Growth Center. So I saw development from a more academic and sort of intellectually rigorous and empirical perspective. And yeah, like after that, I worked with the World Bank for about 2 years in their Education South Asia team based out of Washington, D.C. And over there, I was working a lot on hardcore econometric research, co-authored a few papers, and also like I was part of the lending module of this Bangladesh secondary education project, and I also worked in a lending project for disability education, inclusive education in Nepal. So these were the projects I was closely involved with. And then, like a few months ago, in March of 2022, I joined the IMF as a research analyst, and that's more, it's also development, but it's more macro and more like macro exchange rates and like inflation stabilization and things like that. So, yeah, Swati, a long winded answer to your very simple question.
Thank you, Vatsal. I think that definitely shows us that you've been around in a lot of places and you have a very good understanding of what sort of actors and players work in this space. Maybe that can be a pivot into our next, like another topic, which would be, so a lot of young people who are coming into this space, they're very confused about first where they can fit in and B, what they even need to be in this sector. Only in the last 5-6 years have we seen this space really boom, and you've been on the good end of things. So why don't you maybe talk to us about how you think about skilling for this sector, what somebody would need to sort of, establish a good sort of carve a space for themselves here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think um, the good part about the development space is that there's room for all kinds of people, right? So when you reached out to me, you mentioned that you come from a more communications sort of background, right? I am more an economist, and I know a lot of friends who've done their MBAs and who are like even like physicists or like people from math or people from like sociology and philosophy also get into this sector, right? So the amazing part about like public policy and development is that there is room for all kinds of people because it's just a very interesting space where you need all kinds of skill sets. And I think in public policy, I've come to realize being a generalist is better than being a specialist. So you can, of course, like you should have. Um, so your skills will really depend on which space within the development sector you want to go to. So, for example, if you want to come to a place like the World Bank or IMF, you need to be a specialist in the sense that you either need to be a hardcore economist or you need to be a deep sector expert in one area because both World Bank and IMF are deeply involved in like multiple sectors, right? But if you want to get more into say ID Insight or Dalberg, having an MBA or even a Bachelor of Commerce, like I know so many of my friends from SRCC work at Dalberg, work at ID Insight, and they have like BCom and Econ degrees, right? So in terms of skilling, I would say even if say you're good at writing, right, a JPAL's policy team would love to take you because they are now realizing the fact that they have to they have to really make a solid case about their findings and their empirical research. So I would say if you're good at writing, deep dive on that. If you're good at Stata or Python, deep dive into that. If whatever skill sets you have, just try and find where it is that you want to get into within development and like try to get into that. The second thing is really network a lot with people. So like I would get on cold calls with people from JPAL, IPA, World Bank, like even Government of India. Like a lot of IAS officers were like very open to talk to me and stuff. So I've reached out to a lot of them. So it in terms of skill sets, the beauty is there's no hard and fast rule. You can really enter this sector with whatever skill sets you have, but make sure you stand out in your work and you're doing good work. Personally, I can tell you like what my skill sets are. So like I'm very good with like Stata, Python, R, understanding the econ bit of it. So a lot of like econometrics and things like that, like running randomized control trials, running impact evaluations, like having a very good knowledge of like surveys and things like that. But also like interpersonal skills such as dealing with government bureaucrats or talking to like ministry officials. Being able to network and cold email people is a great skill to have. I think learning how to fundraise is also an amazing skill. So like how to write grant applications, how to like convince a person to like give to fund your project or to give you money is also important. And then apart from that, yeah, just like good quant skills really help, good writing skills really help. So yeah, I think these would be in terms of skills I'd say like are very helpful.
Thanks, Achal. I think that gives us a good picture. You spoke about networking and how that is important. I think no matter from which background you're coming from, maybe we can spend the next 10 minutes speaking about that. You also take a lot of sessions on this specific topic, how to network, and basically you owe your entire career to networking the right way. Maybe you can share some insights there.
Yeah, so I mean the thing with networking is like the first thing people need to really internalize is that it actually works. So for like those who don't have context and don't like follow me on LinkedIn or whatever, like I've got both my internships in college, so like Paytm Payments Bank and Department of Economic Affairs in the Ministry of Finance. Through cold emailing, I got my Yale research assistantship with a very good professor purely through cold emailing. I got my World Bank job through cold emailing. I got my IMF job through cold emailing. So I convinced Dr. Rakesh Mohan to be like my thesis advisor at Yale purely through cold emailing. So yeah, man, like cold emailing just worked for me, and I think it's a good, like the development sector is, for lack of a better word, it's kind of fragmented. So a lot of different actors are like working in tandem and they're doing interesting work, but they're all sort of in silos or or they're fragmented, right? Or they're approaching the problem in a different way. So people are very interested in like talking to other people who are doing interesting work that they don't know of, or that they're approaching a problem in a certain different way. So like my sense has always been that I definitely have some insights or some value to add to another person, and that gives me the confidence to network. Because if you've not done this before, like it can be daunting, it can be challenging. So like just frame a nice email and like reach out to someone and that just say that, hey, I want to have a 15-20 minute conversation with you and broadly understand about like what is it that you do on a day-to-day basis, what skill sets do you have to build to be in your position, or could you tell me about some interesting projects that really impacted you and things. And what I found is people love to talk and like share their insights. So that's what I have done as well, right? Like just reached out to people, set up calls with them, talk to them, and things like that. So, like for example, like within just the first 2 weeks when I joined the IMF, like I just cold emailed the former deputy managing director of the IMF, who's a former US Treasury official, and was leading the US-China trade talks like under President Trump, right? So I just cold emailed him, reached out to him, and he's like way too senior for like me to talk to or reach out to, right? Because I'm just a research analyst, and that guy's way, way above in the hierarchy, right? So I reached out to him and like I had an in-person coffee chat with him for like 30 minutes and got his insights on like how he navigated his career from the US Treasury to the IMF. So that was like amazing. So I would say, and again, another thing is don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Don't expect that your first email or that your first coffee chat or your first conversation is going to be spot on. Brace for awkwardness, brace for some cringe, brace for like imperfection, but keep doing it and you will get better at it. So like, yeah, cold email people, try to get on a Zoom call or a WhatsApp call or a phone call with them and genuinely try to get their insights. And if you're in the same city as them, try to meet them in person. And once you sort of build that network, build that bond with them, then you can sort of reach out and say, hey, I'm possibly looking for a job, or can you tell me, you can look at my resume and tell me how can I improve on things, and like they'll be more than happy to like shoot out an opportunity. So if in their mailbox or through their network, they're like, oh, there is a job opening, maybe Vatsal would be interested in it. He's spoken to me about it earlier. So they'll have you at the back of their mind. And a lot of people who I have networked with, like literally just forward me an email saying, "Hey, Vatsal, do you know of a person who can fill up this job, or are you interested in working here?" So as a result, I've become this conduit of like sort of job offers, and a lot of people like reach out to me, and I refer them to jobs and stuff as well, right? So these sort of things really help. So yeah, you have to invest time in it and do it with some intent, and yeah, don't aim for perfection. That will come slowly, slowly. Like I have been doing this for the last like 4 5 years, and I am nowhere near perfect, right? I'm still learning every day. So yeah, I think that's the mindset you should go in with.
For sure. I think there's an 80-20 rule in consulting as well, where even if your product is 80% there, shoot it out. Don't wait to reach that 100%, because that 20% comes from feedback, which I think makes
Exactly.
sense. So to sum up,
I
I
would say
think,
even I would say more like even 30-70, yeah. Like 30%
yeah,
also, if you're confident and you want to talk to someone, shoot it to them. Baki 70% will automatically flow in. So like 80
yeah.
20 is still a very high threshold. I would say even 30-70 is good enough, man. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Good to know. I mean, it makes sense that how networking, it creates opportunities for you that might not exist around you naturally, right? Which is why it's so powerful, and that makes a lot of sense. And maybe to sum this conversation up on networking, um, I understand what an ideal email should look like, and maybe there are many pointers on the internet for that. However, according to you, what should this cold email or a cold message not look like? What should it not have? If there are any flags that people should look out for?
No, that's a great question, Swati, and I think it's the first time someone's asked me this because a lot of people are fixated on like, acha, what should be in the email. But so the thing is, yeah, like I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn and a lot of cold emails, and I often don't end up replying to like a lot of them because, okay, so the first thing you should not do is in the first email itself, don't try and ask for a job or place a very heavy duty request, right? So if you are reaching out to me, don't tell me first up, like straight away, that, can you please help me get this job, or can you please just review my resume or review my statement of purpose or review my cover letter? Like, I don't know you. And like, why would I do this? Like, if I don't know you and and everyone's really busy doing their own thing in life. So why would I help you? So don't place a heavy duty request on me. The second thing is don't be generic and vague, right? So when people reach out to me saying, can we get on a call? I want to know about your IMF experience. Like that is really vague, or I want to know about your journey so far. Like, don't like be more specific than that because I want to spend my time knowing that somebody will get insights from it and somebody will like I won't have to like really cover like so many topics that the conversation gets lost. So don't place generic requests and vague requests. Be as specific and pointed as possible, and that also shows what you really want out of me and how can I exactly help you, right? So and these two pointers are pointers not for like cold emailing in the development space, but like if you're cold emailing a fund manager, or if you're cold emailing like an IS officer or a minister or like whoever, yeah, right? These two things are very important. The third thing is have some structure and flow in your email. So like mention have a 3-4 paragraph format where the first paragraph is more about like you're introducing yourself. The second paragraph is just highlighting your important achievements and skills. The third paragraph is about broadly like what exactly do you want from that person and what do you want to talk about. And the fourth paragraph is just a nice conclusion and being definite and deterministic about when can we set up the call, or when are you free, so that we can take this forward, and don't ask for more than 10-15 minutes. So I think a nice flow of an email really is very pleasing to the other person. So I'd say, Swati, like, yeah, these things will like already help you beat 85 or 90% of the competition, and you should be like more than adept at like getting responses for your email. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. You have to make it easy for them to help you and give you the insight that you're looking for. And I think what you've said achieves that for sure. I think to sum up the conversation, we spoke about skilling and how it's good to be a generalist rather than a specialist, if since that is also the requirement of the industry today. And how do you sort of go about networking? I think we've had a interesting chat. Any final thoughts from you before we sort of close it out? Any specific yarn you would like to give?
So I was saying, in terms of last words, I would just say be curious and like try to see like different um like who are the different players within the development space, because there's just a lot of people doing very interesting work. So try and like reach out to a lot of people, build a decent network, so that like across all the 5-6 verticals that I mentioned in my first sort of introduction, you have some network or someone you can reach out to and like talk to. And the second thing is like try to do analytical work, like try to publish something or try to get a knowledge product out which has your name on it. I think that really helps a lot, because that shows people that you have an analytical bent of mind, and the development sector really values that. And yeah, the third thing would just be enjoy working and like try to see wherever like new you can innovate and things like that. And yeah, like you should be pretty good and have a very satisfying career like in the development space. So yeah, Swati, I think those would be my parting words. Yeah.
I think it's very interesting how you have to aim to be a generalist, but also learn how to stand out. I think those two terms go very interestingly together. But thank you, Vatsal. I mean, I know that there's a lot more that I want to talk to you about, just so that our viewers know Vatsal also does a lot of free to attend sessions on how do you approach MBA sessions and MBA applications and college applications in general. So we're going to link his profile in the show notes, and you should definitely check it out. I'm sure there's a lot everyone will be able to take from him. And we'll possibly have you over for another episode, possibly on masters and maybe your thoughts on how do you approach a master's and applications and all of these things. So thank you, Vatsal, for making the time. I know this was a short chat, but I think it was full of insights. I think every sentence that we spoke about has some sort of learning. So I really thank you for making the time. And yeah, we hope to have you on board soon again.
Absolutely. No, Swati, thanks a lot, and all the best to like your viewers and stuff. And yeah, like whoever's interested, feel free to reach out to me if I can be of any help to you. And awesome work you're doing, Swati, with this initiative. And like all the best, and look forward to like again engaging on something new. Yeah, thanks a lot, Swati.
Thank you, Vatsal. Thank you so much. Great chatting with you.